Grab yourself a cozy drink, maybe even a glass of wine, and join us here at the soon-to-be-named book club. Welcome, everyone. We're a little shorter than we're minus 2 people this week. The spooky book got them, I guess.
That's right.
We're slowly killing off the book club. The story ends in blood. It's a whole thing. But no, Decal and Heart Illustrations are both busy this week. Hopefully they'll be able to join us next week. But of course, we have Book Club Mom with us.
Yay!
And we have me, Ian, the hostess with the mostest. Double yay, exactly. So we did start a new book. I know we're a week late, but it's all good. We're all busy humans. So we're reading the Southern's Book Club Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. It's off to a great start. I love it's very quotable. I love his little banter with himself, basically, as an author. It's all very fun. Before we jump into the book and, of course, our little author background that Book Club Mom has, even though it's just the two of us, in a sentence or less, how would you describe the first 2 chapters that we read?
Oh, I would say kind of oppressive for the women involved in this in this story. That's how I look at it.
Right. I think that sums it up pretty well. I think I'll go with this is really the end of the 80s.
Scary, huh?
Yeah, I always have to remember what year it is when we're reading this book.
That's right. And yeah, you never lived through that, so I did though.
You yes. Yes, it would have been interesting if you lived in the South in the 80s.
Very. I can really relate to these women.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. But what is Grady Hendrix's deal? What is he all about? Why did he write this book? Other than his little author note, which of course we'll talk about, but
Yeah, exactly. Well, Grady Hendrix has written this book. He's an American author, of course, and this book was first published on April 7th of 2020. And this particular book that he's written centers upon a women's book club that faces a vampiric threat. All right. And the interesting thing about this book is that Hendrix set it in his childhood hometown of Charleston, South Carolina, and he drew upon many of his own personal experiences. In fact, he said he had to get permission from his family members to write about some of these characters or incidents that happen. So I find that very intriguing. Grady Hendrix himself is a New York Times best-selling author. He has a weakness for Christmas, kung fu movies, and bad singing. He says he was raised by wild librarians. I'd love to meet his parents.
Yeah.
And he is married to Amanda Cohen. He's a journalist, public speaker, and screenwriter. In fact, this book, the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, is slated to become a movie on Amazon. Grady Hendrix lives in Manhattan and is one of the founders of the New York Asian Film Festival, despite the fact that he's not Asian.
I was about to say.
Yeah. His next novel is due out in January of 2023, and it's called How to Sell a Haunted House. It's a thrilling novel that explores the way your past and your family can haunt you like nothing else.
That sounds fantastic.
Doesn't it?
All of our previous authors of our other book club, they're all coming out with so much new stuff in 2023. I'm like, oh, great. Oh, that's great.
Yes.
I love his little author's note. Like that just gives a whole like look into his character, but also the fact that he's taking it off of like family stuff is absolutely insane.
Right. So so first the dedication I find very interesting. It's for Amanda. It says, "Wherever all the pieces of you are." So I find that hilarious, number one, because I'm assuming that's his wife, Amanda, right?
Oh,
And the
yeah.
fact that he phrases it like that, I think that's just hilarious, right?
That's great.
Yes, and then to read the author's note, yes, super, super interesting.
Yeah. So of
uh,
course, when the author's note, like you said, he grew up in the South. This was like he referenced one of his past books, how it was like looking in the point of view of teenagers in like a realm of monsters, you know, vampires, etc. And this one he wanted to give a parent's point of view, which I was like, this is gonna be a wild ride. Already it has been. And then I
definitely.
loved that ending where he was just like, I wanted to pit Dracula versus my mom.
Yes, exactly.
I
I
was
think
like,
that's great
me too.
because in some of the articles he talks about uh, the women in his life, right? And
Right.
especially growing up. Here he talks about the state of women in this little article I read. It says, "When my parents got divorced in the 80s, my mom was a 50-year-old woman without a college diploma because her family believed sending a woman to college was a waste of time. And without a credit score, because she'd never had a credit card or bank account in her name, things were very difficult for her. You know, here he talks about, and this is actually in the book as well, he talks about dictionaries that were describing housewives as a light, worthless woman or girl.
Yeah,
And
that definition's in the book
right.
right before
And
the
he talks
50.
about how we as women have an entire magazine and self help industry telling us that we're not keeping our house clean enough and our bodies beautiful enough and our children healthy enough.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Big yikes. The fact that they're still around, I think, is a bigger
Yes.
yikes.
But what I love about what Grady Hendrix is planning on doing in this book is showing that these women, right, these supposedly genteel Southern women,
Yeah.
really come together and battle vampires. So watch out.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, so I did like also in his author's note I like that he said that his mom was part of a book club too and she was a housewife and so it literally is like the main character.
Yes.
I was like this is gonna be great. So of course his prologue right before we get that dictionary entry you just said
Mm-hmm.
that was very dramatic. But it gets a point across. It was very fun to read.
Mm-hmm.
I think this book in general is going to be very fun to read. The way he
Definitely.
writes. So of course we get the foreshadowing of it ending in blood. You know, some of it theirs, some of it someone else's. You know, we don't know how much of each, but we'll get there basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love the little quote of how he's describing the moms that he's trying to get, like all of the moms he wants to include in this story, and the thing was living on the edge is buying a pair of light up earrings. I was like, that's fantastic.
Ah,
Oh yeah, light up Christmas earrings, which just hits
right.
at home. That's so true. I know many a mom that's like that.
That's right. Uh,
Oh, that was so
that's great.
funny. Did you have anything else you liked about the prologue before we just jump into the first two chapters?
No, I just think it was, very interesting. He's trying to make it really relatable to all these women. So you'll identify with somebody definitely in this book.
Right,
So,
right. Uh,
and I like that the first chapter, right,
right.
is called "Cry, the Beloved Country."
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he picked the books very well for what he's trying to
Yes.
get across. It's very cute that he's doing a like a book per like section that kind of describes
Right.
what's going on.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was great. So yeah, so we jump right in. We get this. Basically, the first two chapters are just background, essentially. There's not really a setup of a, the the looming vampire eventually,
No.
or anything
Right.
like that. We just get essentially how crazy her life is. She's
Right.
she's 39, a mother of two, and she is busy, busy, busy. There's so much going on, of course, with her daughter and son, who just seem to be absolutely insane. And then her mother-in-law, which and
Miss,
yeah,
yeah,
Miss
Miss Mary.
Mary, yep.
Hmm.
And then her husband, Carter.
Carter.
Yes, Carter. We didn't hear too
Yeah.
much about him other than he's
No.
a
Workaholic.
yeah, workaholic. I think he's a dentist, right? I know
Oh,
he deals with
no, I thought it was
as a
like
doctor.
a psychologist,
Oh,
wasn't it?
I think that's right. Yeah,
Something like that.
forgot
Right.
about that. But he has patience. That's what we do know.
Yes. Yes.
um,
Yep.
so after the little background, we get a lovely little intro into this this book club, this
Right.
literary guild
Right. Of Mount Pleasant.
of Mount Pleasant. Yes, we meet the lovely Marjorie Fretwell,
Right.
who's the ringleader of this group, and she's such a control freak, which on some level, being a leader of a book club, I guess I
Yeah.
get, but that's just, why would you pick all of the books at the beginning? I just can't pick all of the books for the year at the beginning. Like, that just, like, things can change, moods can change. How can you just jump from like month to month and be like, I feel like this 11 months before? But that's just a little rant, I guess. So yeah, so we meet her. We meet how she sets up her book club, which I would never do. we see inside of her home, which I think the best description of a home I've ever gotten was, I wore a floral dress and I didn't know what her house looked like before I chose this. I just blended into the background. I was like, oh boy. And then of course, the whole how we find out she's busy is that she didn't get to read the book, which for this book club this month is The Cry of the Beloved Country. And she, of course, is the like main speaker that gets to talk for 20 minutes about the book and lead a whole conversation. So I was really proud of her for bullshitting her way through that. I was like, you got this. I'm like, I feel a connection with you on this. And then Marjorie just decided to see through the bullshit and shoot her down. And I was like, but then she shot down her own whole book club because she found out nobody read.
Right.
Oh, so I think that was karma in itself. And then we end that chapter with a cute little segue into what we're finding out is our main characters of the five women he alluded to in the prologue, and they were talking about a separate, not so book club that they were going to be part of and read. Basically the books that she was talking about she wanted to read, mystery thrillers, crime documentaries, true crime, sorry, not documentaries, true crime, and everything like that. And I thought it was funny in her inner monologue, she's just like, oh, I would never read this book, this is trashy. And I'm just like, this is literally what you wanted to read, Patricia. Get your head out of your ass.
Yep. Well, and then she demolishes the book in 3 days.
She's like, I don't know if I'll be able to read this. Reads it in 3 days.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought. And then of course we get to a little glimpse into the first not so book club at Kitty's house, and we get her lovely little backstory about her house and how it was like it landed in her lap essentially.
Right.
But it was very funny when she walked through the front door and she's just like, oh, there's a mess. And she's like, oh, this makes my house look like fantastic.
Right, really. I'm not doing so bad.
Right. And so Kitty, I think, is from the South originally, it seems.
I think so.
But she just doesn't have that southern hospitality that this book really tries to hit home.
Doesn't she have 5 kids?
Well,
That's
yes,
why.
she also has 5 kids. So
That's why.
that is really why. But
Everybody, wake up.
Yeah.
5 kids. I can't do the house and keep 5 kids busy.
Right.
That's the real life.
Right, I know. So it gave a cute little glimpse into like what a mom truly deals with. And it wasn't just this, perfect household,
Right.
especially when you're inviting people over, which is always I guess would be a stigma you always have when you're inviting people over, that you need to have your house pristine and clean and, like you don't live there, essentially.
Right. Oh, this is the way my house always looks.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I just eat off of whatever surface I choose that day,
Right.
casually.
So that's what I love, that we're seeing the real, this is what really happens, right?
Right.
Our lives are not perfect. Our houses are not perfect. Our kids are not perfect, right? This is it. This is real life, right? And so that's the beauty of this book club, because they're really getting to know unusual books, and they're getting to know each other.
Right. I know they're in the South. You live in a different part of the U.S., but do you relate to these moms? Well, I know your kids are grown. But.
Of course, definitely. I think that's the beauty of this book. And I think that was what Grady Hendrix meant to talk about, is that moms universally, this book is about moms protecting their children. And it doesn't mean just their children all over the world, right? Anybody's children. I'm a mom, you're basically my kid. It doesn't matter if you're really my kid biologically. Kids are kids and moms are moms, and we're always going to be watching over each other. So moms are always going to be watching over kids, even if they're not just biologically theirs. It's just innate in being a mom. I think that's the important thing about what we're about to read, right?
Right. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. That's a really sweet point, that he's trying to get that point of view, even though he's not technically a mom.
Right. But nice that he figured that out about his mom and all these other moms in his life.
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we get the little glimpse into what books they're trying to read.
I love that.
And then eventually she's like, yeah, all of the pictures we keep getting in the middle of these books are starting to turn into a blur. So I suggested we started reading novels instead of just true crime.
Right. Oh, that's great.
Oh, yeah, that was hilarious. And then we get a little glimpse into her, like we get a base of where she's living. So she lives in Old Village, which is basically, I just feel like a reminiscence of every like urban sprawl type deal.
Yeah.
Like someone created this new little suburb outside of like a bigger city or bigger part of a city, essentially. And now like everyone who was like wealthy moved to the new part, and now you've left with this older suburb. And so that's going to be interesting to see how that plays in this book, because it wouldn't have been mentioned for nothing.
Right, you're right.
But yeah, no. But it is kind of funny. I wouldn't like when I think of like kids playing outside and not like the doors are open and like, yeah, this is the South and maybe it's a little bit different, but I don't really see that as like the end of the 80s era or like end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s as like something you would do. I feel like that's when people started actually like locking their doors and everything like that, but I could be wrong.
Well, I especially think in the South, I think it wasn't as as prevalent, right? I think again, you're always thinking about Southern hospitality and Southern charm, and especially when you live kind of in the middle of nowhere, I think you're less prone to worry about people breaking into your house or anything like that. I think people don't think that way. Even in the 80s, I think they believe that there's still a lot of good in people, and yeah, I'm going to leave my doors open if somebody needs something. I'm here for them. I'm trying to be neighborly, right? I have an open door because that's what Southerners do, right?
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, we perfectly see a glimpse of that as we jump forward, like even like in the book, of course, but also just in years. Like we jumped 2 years to 91,
yes.
or actually that'd be 3 years, I guess. So the fall of 91, where we get Miss Mary, like the realization that she can't live on her own anymore, and whatever illness she has is just getting worse, and now she needs like someone to watch her almost constantly by the end of the little blurb. And of course it was supposed to be split between the three brothers, and the two just ditched. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's just
unbelievable.
I know. I hate when families end up doing that.
Yeah, of course. So sad.
Right. But then of course we see that lovely little like, well, I mean, it's not even Southern hospitality at that point. It's just like friendship. Like from the book club, she, accidentally blabs to Grace. And, Grace basically calls Kitty, and Kitty comes over with a truckload of like all of this like hospital grade stuff that she'll probably need and help. And then Grace called someone who will be able to like actually watch her and help her with whatever she needs. And it was very touching.
Yeah, it's really beautiful to see how their friendship has expanded, and how these women who found each other right through a book club have really bonded and realized, well, I'm here for you no matter what. I see you need something, and I have something. I'm gonna bring it to you and give you all this stuff to help you deal with your mother-in-law who's suffering from dementia, and I'm even going to supply you with a wonderful woman who can come a few days a week and help you, for salary, that kind of thing. So that is really a beautiful thing for sure.
Yeah, it was very nice. And then of course the little like she got to see the fireworks and go to the whole orchestra thing, and it was just like,
yes,
aww. Definitely. It's a perfect little ending to that whole chapter. But I especially loved that ending though. She's like, I'm just gonna actually read it because it was just so good. Let me see. There were just at the very end, she'd learned two things. They were all in this together, and if their husbands ever took out a life insurance policy on them, they were in trouble.
Well, I thought it was hilarious. Just before that, you were talking about in the fall of 91, right?
Yeah, that's where we're at now.
Book club, and who said? Slick said that she told her husband that this was a Bible study group.
Oh my gosh, that was so funny. I'm honestly surprised there wasn't some little blurb about like the husbands not giving it away, because they like, maybe they're not paying attention, but like one of them has to know what they're reading.
Right, you think.
Right, like Patricia even said that she asked if Carter wanted to join.
Right. But I think that does tell you something then, does it?
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't it?
Right.
That they're not really involved in each other's lives somehow.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, it's too funny.
Yeah, that was great. So I guess, I mean, that's basically it. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about the first two chapters?
Well, I said it's going to be an adventure. I like the writing style. It really moves quickly, yes. And I, even though I'm a little squeamish about gore, I think this is going to be an interesting ride here.
Oh yeah, I know. I was a little like, do I want this book? But I was like, it's just so perfect for the circumstances.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
even in like most of these, none of us. There's only one mom in this book club. Like, truly, but we all are moms at heart with what we
Yeah,
deal
you're right. That's exactly right.
So funny. But we do. So the next section, though, we're going to be reading, we do jump 2 years again to 1993.
Oh, right.
And then we'll be reading. So we're basically reading. Oh, we are reading only 1 month. So we are only reading 1 month, May, because the next section is June of 1993. So in 2 years, what do we think is going to happen? Are we going to see the same characters? Are we going to get like an update on like Miss Mary that she's like not with us anymore? Like, is the book club still going to be strong? Is it going to be like estranged, and then that's why we're jumping, like we're getting back into the book club? Are we meeting the supposed potential vampire? What do we believe?
Well, I sure hope the book club is together. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I would be
think these
surprised if it
women are
wasn't.
lifelong friends, so yeah,
Oh,
they're
for
definitely
sure.
together. Miss Mary, not sure about that, but I'm assuming she'll be even more crotchety than ever. So I think we'll see her again. But yeah, definitely we've got to be introduced to the vampire, right?
True. I mean, is it gonna be? I don't know. Are we gonna know who the vampire is right off the bat, or is it gonna be like a surprise?
No, good question. I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. So I think, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Miss Mary was like not with us 2 years later, especially since he alluded to like her condition getting worse. But
Yeah.
I would, it would be weird to not like introduce a character just to like kill her off without like
Right.
an explanation. Um, but
I
yeah,
think in reading about Grady Hendrix too, just sort of foreshadowing, he does talk about in real life how his own grandma did have dementia and how difficult it was for him as a child to deal with that, right? Because he was
yeah,
really afraid of his grandmother. And so, in a sense, I think he's really showing the realities of what happens to people with dementia and how, different their life is from, what they really were like, when they didn't have dementia. And I think it's a lesson for all of us to deal with that. And so I think Miss Mary, I did read something about Miss Mary being kind of a hero, so watch out.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess she doesn't die. All right. Well, for next week, then we're just gonna read a little section because we're gonna let the other two
Catch up.
book clubbers catch up. So we'll be reading we'll be reading chapter up to chapter 9. So we'll read chapter 8, but not chapter 9. So once you hit the bridges of Madison County, don't go any further.
I'll try not to.
Right. So I think we're definitely in a wild ride, even with we're moving 2 years. We're only reading a month of the book. But I'm excited. I already like this book a lot, even with a little preview. Well, that's what we got today. So as always, thank you, Book Club Mom, for joining me on this adventure. Hopefully the other two will be here next week. You can find basically in our little bio below Twitch, and then of course in all of our link trees you can find Heart Illustrations Instagram, where she has all of her art. And then of course I'd like to thank Botsy for helping us with all the IT stuff behind the scenes. He's kind of assumed this. he's the IT god position. I accidentally said something, so I guess that's what he is now. But you can catch him streaming his own his stuff is also, of course, in the bottom of our bottom of our Twitch, and he also streams consistently right now Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And you can catch me playing games with him on Friday if you'd like. But you can find us on our Discord and our Linktree, where you can be found on TikTok too, all over the lovely socials. So that's where you can find me in Book Club Bomb. So just as a little reminder, we'll be reading up to Chapter 9, so read Chapter 8, not Chapter 9, for the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. And we will see you all next week at 8 o'clock EST. Thank you for everyone who's joined us today, and of course anyone who joins us later on YouTube. And I can't wait to see you all next week. Have a good night, everyone.